Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. The fellas heading out to the Pac-12, taking a look at the Apple Cup. They'll, as East Coasters, this is where you become champion college football watchers. 10:30 Eastern time kickoff. This is the classic Pac-12 after dark. It's going to be a great game. Washington coming in as 2-point favorites. Rivalry week. Washington Huskies are scorching hot, winning their last 5 games. It's going to be a good one. Before we get into it, though, again, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown the channel. If you do like the content, consider subscribing. We enjoy talk. We love talking ball with you guys in the comment section. We love making these videos, and the support you guys have shown truly does mean a lot. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. What are your early takes here in this game?
Yeah, I mean, this honestly is in my opinion, a giant game for both of these programs. Probably slightly more so for Washington State, because I think under the new Jake Dickert era, they're gonna want a nice signature win. I think a lot of people thought that was Wisconsin, but obviously now in hindsight, that doesn't look like much. But you have an opportunity here to beat a top 15 team and in a deserving top 15 team for sure, because Washington's really good. But I think you want to come away with a win that you can kind of stamp and say, all right, we kind of belong in this echelon, because they've obviously struggled against the top of the Pac-12 so far.
Yeah, and it's a big rivalry game, and the Huskies, you said it best, are one of the best teams in the Pac-12. In terms of matchups, looking at this game, I think it comes down to I like the Huskies a little bit more because I like this defense. So you look at like the teams, the overarching stats. Washington State giving up less than 20 points per game. Washington being maybe a little bit more leaky, giving up 26 points per game. But when you look at the numbers, Washington's defense per play is only giving up 5.6 yards, and that's in comparison to Washington State's 5.3. Like, these defenses are pretty evenly matched, and you kind of just a gut feeling looking at the last 5 games for Washington, looking at the last couple of games for Washington State. It's hard to argue that Washington isn't the more confident team and the better team heading into this game.
Yeah, and I think the big difference between the teams, if you like, Washington's just scoring every game, and they're consistent on offense. And even I get that Washington's defense, it's not been like great. I mean, it's been fine, and they've obviously won a lot of games. But when you're bumping up against a Washington State team that just isn't looking wildly consistent on offense, where like you have stretches where it's really good, and then against USC, they should have won that game. It's just their offense just broke down on them in the second half, and they couldn't move the ball an inch. So I don't think you can afford that type of play against a Washington team, because they're going to score when they touch it, and that's what they've been doing this year.
That's kind of where I'm at. When you look at these two offenses, and I do think the defenses are, I wouldn't say Washington State's been playing very, very good on defense, and I don't mean to diminish how good this defense is. But which offense do you trust more? When I look at Washington State, they don't really have an identity. I mean, Cameron Ward, I think they want to spread you out and throw the ball around, but Cameron Ward only completing 64% of his balls, which isn't horrible for 21 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Hasn't thrown for over 3,000 yards. They don't really lean on him. And you look at beating Arizona, a very weak defense. Last week, he only threw for 193 yards. They really only win that game because Jaden DeLore throws 4 interceptions. That offense, I don't really know if they have an identity. They run the football okay. They throw the football okay. But to your point, they relied on kind of some explosive plays. And when they were able to keep it close against Oregon, they were kind of hitting some gimmick-ish plays. But in terms of down-to-down consistency, you got to trust the Huskies a little bit more than the Cougars.
And just looking at them, I mean, I think that Washington State's defense is better. I think their numbers maybe don't look as good in some part because their offense has too many 3-and-outs, and they don't drive the ball like Washington, who's constantly got the ball in their hands, and they're pretty much steadily driving the field. But I think Washington's offense is going to be able to score on most teams, and I think that very much so includes Washington State. I think you look at how USC was able to do it and spread them out and then run the ball, and that's probably the one thing that Washington has that's better is their run game. I think is better than people would have thought based on what they were losing.
Yeah, exactly. And this Washington team it's a complete offense. Like they obviously want to spread you out and throw the ball around. And Michael Penix just fitting in so well to this Kalen DeBoer offense, almost throwing for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions, completing almost 67% of his balls. But Wayne T, the transfer from Virginia, averaging 5.8 yards per carry, is also good out of the backfield. They have so many weapons on offense that can hurt you. You take a look at guys like Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, Roma Duzne, even a guy like Giles Jackson, who's kind of a gadget guy that you get the ball out in space and he can make you miss. I like Washington State secondary. I think they have some players who can match up. But when you have 4, 5, 6 bona fide weapons with a quarterback who's been accurate, on time, and just a playmaker for that offense, it's really hard to see Washington State keeping up with the Huskies scoring this football.
Yeah, and again, that to me, I'm not trying to beat the drum for this Washington defense, because you look at that side of the ball, I think that you should be able to move it. Most teams should. Most teams have, even though the offense for Washington's been pretty good. But I don't know. I'm not convinced that this, what you said, that this Huskies or Washington State team has arrived on offense, because you're right. It just, I don't know what they can lean on to do when they need to score, when they need to dig themselves out of the hole. So
and Cameron Ward's a guy I like. I think he needs another year at the FBS level, dripping with talent. There's a reason why every FBS program wanted him to come to their school. Some crazy arm talent, some crazy throwing angles he can create, but he hasn't really found that consistency yet. And whenever I watch Washington State games, in credit Washington State, because it's never always looks pretty, but they're 7-4, 4-4 in conference play. Like, this is a solid football team, but it's not a team that you trust a lot from watching them. To get to the pick, Washington coming in as 2-point favorites on the road to Washington State. It's going to be a hostile environment. These Washington State Cougar fans want to win this. This is the biggest game of the year. Say this is the epitome of college football. Rivalry week, 10:30 Eastern time kickoff. Dill, what's your pick here?
Yeah, and I think I'm going Washington. I don't. There's something about the Washington State team that I don't know. I haven't thought that team is a top tier team yet. And I think the problem is you see some flashes here and there. And I think they're very much on the right track, and they'll be really good under Jake Dickert at some point, assuming he stays. And I think Washington State's fans should hope he does. But I just think they're not quite developed to the point where Washington is. And I know that Jimmy Lake had a rough tenure, but I still think you still have like the bones of the Chris Peterson era that feel like they're there, where it's just a team that I think is much more dependable than what Washington State is.
Oh, and that's kind of where I'm at. Is this, if you're asking me which offense I trust more, and again, I think like this Washington defense, yes, they give up points, and that's because Washington plays fast, they throw the ball around, they score a lot of points, but I really like some of this defense. Like Alex Cook, very, very good. Cam Bright at linebacker, I very much like him. I think they have some serious playmakers on the front seven. Obviously ZTF, but I think Braylon Trice has also been a dog up front. They can create some pressure. Washington State offensive line has not been very good in pass protection. It comes down to which quarterback, which offense do I trust more, and it's hard to say. Michael Penix is not a quarterback that you can throw your trust in. You're getting a short number on the road. Give me Michael Penix. There's not many college football teams that have been hotter than the Washington Huskies. Whether it's on the road, whether it's home, this team is very, very good. They went on the road and beat Oregon 2 weeks ago. They kind of seem like they're a wrecking ball in the Pac-12, and if you're up in the Pac-12, you don't want to play the Washington Huskies team right now because they are firing
that offense. That offense can score.
And it's phenomenal what Kalen DeBoer has done in less than 12 months with this offense. From watching it, what it looked like against Jimmy Lake versus Kalen DeBoer.
Well, that's the trait. Like they've had the talented teams to play in that Pac-12. But you're right. There's something missing, and it seems like Kalen DeBoer has unlocked it. And
oh, you mean something missing is just I formation running basic I formation vanilla offense?
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, they're slinging it. You brought Penix back to looking like the guy I think Indiana hoped he was going to be after that COVID year, and they got this squad rolling, and obviously the wideouts are incredible.
Yeah, that'll do it from the boys. Again, the Washington Huskies kind of been our team the last couple. This is a team that's fun to watch. They've been scoring a lot of points. Again, if you guys do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.